Alright folks, welcome back to the Grant Garage. So today what we're working on is my 2011 Silverado, and what we're replacing are the trans-cooler lines. They run from the transmission up to this end here, which goes into the trans-cooler part of the radiator. Living in northern Michigan, mine did what a lot of them do, and they rotted out. So first, I'm going to make room for it. You don't have to remove the air box, you can get to it. I find it easier to get that out of the way. And then this plate here. Once again, you could technically squeeze them through without removing it, but it seems silly to me to make it fight that much. So these here are just some 15mm bolts, and that plate comes down. And up here, basically I take that flathead out, undo this hose, and that whole air box comes right out of there. So I'm not going to film that, but I'm going to do that and then come back. Okay, so here we are underneath the truck. Got the bell housing. The lines run from the passenger side towards the driver's side, up, and they go into that little block right there. There's a bolt that holds it to the engine, and it's a 1/2-inch bolt. So I'll get that loosened up, and that should pop right off. Alright, I've got you up here looking at the radiator now. These are a quick connect, and they make a tool that slides over this onto the inside, and essentially pops a spring clip out of here enough that the line pulls out. I do own one of those, but I don't know where it is. But I've also found that if you just grab this clip here a little bit with like a pick or something, you can pull it out of there just enough. Now don't get me wrong, this is a lot easier with the tool. And if hopefully you're watching this video ahead of time, kind of getting the parts list ready. Because yeah, if you have the tool, your day will be better. I don't know where mine is. Parts stores do typically have this little clip, but it's just easier to not drop it. And with that out, your trans lines, they might be a little stubborn, but they will just pop out. You kind of give them a little bit of a wiggle. Mine's in a bracket here, so it doesn't want to wiggle. Yours will probably also be in a bracket here. There we go. Trans line's out. But for the time being, I'm going to pop that right back in there. At least there. I'm not putting the clip back in because I didn't have the bottom one yet, and I don't want to get trans fluid all over me any more than I need to. So now I'll do the same thing on the bottom. Okay, with the lines unhooked, you're going to have a couple of clip things like this. They just hold the lines to each other. If you get a set that has this clip, you don't actually have to take this off. But I've never seen one that comes with it. So I'll take that off, set to the side. Like I said, you will probably need it in a minute. And our way down here. It's a little dark and I'm on a GoPro, but there's clips here on the side of your oil pan right above this is the front axle for reference. Little clips here, just kind of pop them into there. So we're going to pop them out of there. Got one of them's free. I might need my hands, but yeah, those clips right there. There's also clips back here just behind the oil pan. Alright, so I got the bolt out there and popped loose. Clips right here above the sway bar. Kind of back of oil pan, front of bell housing are loose. Clips by the front axle are loose. Clips on the radiator up there were loose. My lines are unhooked. Now I just got to fish those out and fish the new ones in. Unfortunately, I am laying on my back under here. And I'm definitely not going to be able to hold the camera and do this. I'll probably prop you up back behind me a little bit. But I'm making no promises as to whether or not you're going to be able to see it. I also don't know if I should feed it towards the front or towards the back. All I really know is that I'm about to get just absolutely covered in trans fluid. I'm going to say, well, so far, feeding to the back is working. I've heard of some companies that make a two-piece line, and I could definitely see how that could be useful. And if I was a two-wheel drive, that could be useful too. Yeah, with those bends like that, it's going to have to come out through the back. Alright, well I'm going to shut the camera off because it kind of has to sit right where I'm swinging a line, and I don't want to smack it. I can't really show you exactly what I'm doing. It really is just fish it out, find a way it fits. I got them run up through there. It is not an easy job to do that. So now, I'm going to get this piece here back up to there and put that bolt in. Okay, so now I got that bolt back in. I actually found that it was easiest to get that bolt started if I put these in the bracket first. Otherwise it kept trying to tilt and making it hard to spin the bolt. And there's like no room there for a ratchet unless you remove the drive shaft. That probably would make it easier, but it wasn't worth removing it to me. Plus I have an older truck in northern Michigan and I don't want to loosen any bolts I don't have to. But if you hadn't put this in yet, now is the time. I'm going to make my way up here, popping it into these lines as well. If your view is anything like my view, there's almost no point in filming it, but I get those in there and work our way forward. Got them in that bracket. Now right in this area here, the lines will rub together, and that's where that little black clip goes back on. This little guy here. It's not a precise location, but basically just wherever it has to go to make sure those lines aren't going to rub against each other somewhere in here. As far as putting the lines back in up here, if you had the special tool, your clip is still in here. If not, you'll notice that there's 3 evenly spaced holes around it, and one is for this little divot in the back, and one is for each of these little tabs right here. So you have to space it till it clips in right there. And of course, all that tape I put on here, it's kind of a pain because now I got to remove it. But if I hadn't done this, it would absolutely be full of dirt and grease and whatever there. I used a lot of tape because it was covered in, well, my hands were covered in trans fluid. I used a lot of tape because my hands were covered in trans fluid. It didn't really want to stick. So now I'm just peeling that off. And you kind of see it's got a taper on the one side, that's so it can go right into there. Now, considering this was just on there, or well, these weren't, but there was fluid in the radiator just now, there's a good chance there's some trans fluid on it. But I feel a lot better just putting a little bit more onto it. And then it will just pop up into there. You may or may not hear an audible click. I mean, you won't on the camera. I'm just saying if you're doing it on the actual truck. Kind of give it a couple tests, make sure it's behind the clip. That's in there nicely. And pop that little black retainer part over it again. Put it back in its bracket. Okay, and the trans lines themselves are now installed. Alright, now I'm about to put the air box back in, and I figured I'd show you before I did. This little thing here does have to pop into a grommet down there. In fact, actually, yeah, there's a couple things. One of them's stuck on my air box, one of them's in there. So I'm going to pop that back off into the plate and pop that back in. It would be easier to see everything and check for leaks if this wasn't here, but it's going to want that airflow sensor. I'm still going to leave the bottom plate off until I've seen everything. So, alrighty, so the air box is back on and plugged in, clamps tightened down. That bottom plate is still off just so I can see everything clearly. There will be a little bit of fluid loss from this because there was fluid in the lines, so you'll have to check that. But everything is hooked up. Everything's hooked up, tied out of the way. So we're going to start it. And real quickly, just glance underneath it. Just make sure it's not gushing out. Don't expect it to, but you know. And look at the lines. I don't know how well you can see the bottom one. I can see it though. Okay, those ones are looking good. If you were able to safely go under the vehicle, do so now and look at that. If not, just make sure you do when you shut it off. So it's been running for a minute. It's definitely going to have already filled up those lines and such. I would like to check that, but in order to get access underneath it, I put it up on ramps, so I'm not sitting level. But I don't want to take it down and then put that plate back on underneath, so I'm going to put that on now. Alright, back on level ground again. Check that fluid level. And yeah, the transmission is still fairly hot under there, and I'm a little bit below the cold, so I'm going to add some. Alright, as it sits here, I haven't driven it yet. It's been running for a few. The transmission pan itself is hot enough that it's uncomfortable to touch. The engine is at full operating temperature, so the transmission is likely up to temp. It's showing at the very bottom of the hot right now, maybe even a tick under. So before I add any more, I'm going to want to go drive it, make sure I warm it up, make sure all the fluid's everywhere it needs to be, and then I'll come back and check it again. I just took a quick trip around the block. So gotta get the engine up to operating temperature. It doesn't mean it has to be, you don't have to go drag race it, you don't have to tow a house. Just drive it around a little. I am at the H in the word hot. As far as I'm concerned, that's a good enough place to be. So the fluid shouldn't really go anywhere from there. If it's good now, it should be good. I always like to still check it in a couple days after I've been driving. Put 25, 50 miles or something on it. I don't think I've ever actually seen it move in that time, but I don't know, it makes me feel better about it. Anyways, yeah, full, no leaks, and that was the goal. So there it is, the trans line replacement. Like I said, this is a 2011 Silverado 1500. Yeah, thanks for watching the Grant Garage. Like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. Lets me know that you're watching, that you want to see more, and we'll see you next time.